The Detroit Pistons have been starting two bigs with Isaiah Stewart and Marvin Bagley since Isaiah Stewart returned from injury, but should they look at possibly changing that lineup? We'll look at that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. I'm recording this episode right after the Pistons lost to the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll talk about some of the things that happened in this game, obviously. We'll talk about the good games that we saw from Killian Hayes, Saddiq Bey, Jalen Duren. We'll talk about Jalen Duren a little bit early here. But the first thing I want to talk about on the podcast is the Pistons' two big man lineup. And that's been something we've talked about on the podcast a lot over the last week and a half. And the Pistons talked about it all offseason. We were told that we were going to see it this season. And we didn't get to see it much because Isaiah Stewart got hurt, or Marvin Bagley got hurt initially, and then Isaiah Stewart got hurt. So we didn't get to see it for a large majority of the season. But then once Isaiah Stewart returned, we started to see it. He's been starting with Marvin Bagley consistently ever since he returned. And we've gotten some mixed results. It hasn't always been good. It hasn't always been bad. It's been average some games, really good some games, terrible some games. We've had a real big mixed bag. But what I want to talk about is whether the Pistons should consider abandoning that lineup. And no, I'm not saying abandon the two big lineup, but I'm saying abandon possibly Stu and Bagley. I think we're at a point, and I've kind of teased this over the podcast, over the last 2 weeks, but I seriously think we're already at the point. Yes, he's at the age of 19. We're only in December of his rookie season. But I think it's so incredibly clear that the Detroit Pistons should be starting Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart. It's painfully clear. We've seen multiple games where Jalen Duren is closing games instead of Marvin Bagley. There's been multiple games over the past week where Jalen Duren ends up with more minutes than Marvin Bagley. And why is that? Well, we've talked about it a lot on the podcast recently, but I think this is the best way. I don't even have to bring up the stats from the other games. I'm just going to bring this stat up right here, and that will say enough for you. Jalen Duren had 13 rebounds in this game. 13. He came off the bench. He played 26 minutes. He had 13 rebounds. The second highest Pistons in rebounds was Killian Hayes, who we'll talk about later, with 6. Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley, and Jaden Ivey did not combine for more or the same amount as rebounds as Jalen Duren. They had 11 rebounds between 4 of them. Jalen Duren had 13. If you look at all the front court members, Bojan, Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley, and Saddiq, you're looking at 8, 11, 13. Then you finally tie the amount that Jalen Duren had. See, the problem with the big man lineup that the Pistons have been running, and I brought this up last week, is that they're running two bigs, but they're not actually running two bigs. They're not playing big. And last week, I forget what game it was after, but we talked about on the podcast. After one of the games the Pistons played, I believe it was earlier this week or maybe last week. I forget which one game it was. But Dwayne Casey came out after the game and said, I got on the two bigs because the reason why we are starting two bigs is to dominate the paint and dominate the interior. And if we're not going to do that, he said, quote, I might as well start Corey Joseph. So, again, the whole idea behind the two big lineup is to dominate the paint, be physical, be physically demanding of the opposing team, let them know that you're here, and playing extremely physical inside. And they haven't been able to do that because the two bigs they're starting, they're not actually big. And a prime example and a prime evidence, I should say, of this is tonight's game against the New Orleans Pelicans. We had another example a few games ago, but another example here against the New Orleans Pelicans. What the New Orleans Pelicans trotted out, that's a big lineup. Zion and Jonas Valanciunas, two guys who play their weight, play their size, maybe even more. Zion obviously plays way bigger than he actually is. But Jonas Valanciunas is no slump either. He had 12 rebounds. He plays extremely big. He also hopes that he actually is big, but he plays to his size. That's a big lineup. And between the two, they had 22 rebounds. They physically dominated the interior of this game so badly that against the Pistons, a team that is, again, running two bigs, as soon as the third quarter started, Greg Kelser, and this is what made me immediately say to myself, this is the first segment on the podcast today. The first thing Greg Kelser said at the beginning of the third quarter was, looks like the Detroit Pistons are going to a zone so they can try to shore up the interior. If you are having to go to a zone to shore up the interior on your defensive end, when you are starting two bigs so you can dominate the interior, if you're starting two bigs and then having to go to zone to make up for the interior, what are you doing? Something's wrong. Something's massively wrong. There's no point. If you're going to go zone to try to shore up the interior, you might as well go and, like Dwayne Casey said, start Corey Joseph. Not literally Corey Joseph, but you can start someone smaller. The whole point of starting Bagley and Stu is to play big and be able to dominate the interior. So if you're going zone to shore up the interior, the whole point of running the two bigs is out the window. Now what are you getting out of it? What's the purpose? If that is supposed to be the positive out of that lineup, and now you're going zone to make up for it, what's the positive? What is the other positive? It's not like it's providing incredible spacing. It's not providing incredible offense. What is it? What is it providing? Nothing. It's not providing anything. And that's why Jalen Duren played how many more minutes? 7 more minutes than Marvin Bagley tonight. And that's why Jalen Duren had the highest plus minus in this game of anyone on the Detroit Pistons. Single game plus minus can be noisy sometimes. You want to try and match up with the eye test, see if it matches up. That 100% matches up. Because when you run Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, it actually feels like the Pistons are playing big. Because Jalen Duren is a big guy who plays bigger than he is, with long arms, extremely athletic, and extremely strong. So now you got two guys who are extremely strong in Stu and Jalen Duren. Stu's not very athletic. He can't get off the ground very well, but he's physically dominating somewhat. And Jalen Duren is just like that, except he's much more athletic, taller, bigger, and longer. So when Jalen Duren was in the game, it actually looked like they were running two bigs. When Marvin Bagley was out there, it was just like, what are you doing? It also doesn't help that Marvin Bagley has been missing bunnies over the last few games. He was 0-4 tonight. And if he's not scoring 12 to 15 points in his limited time, it's hard to find a reason to play him. Like the only stat he had tonight, Marvin Bagley, was 2 rebounds. No assists, no steals, no blocks, no turnovers. He had 2 fouls, no points. Again, look, I know it's only been a few games, but I told you guys this in the offseason that this was a concern of mine. I told you guys in the offseason. I told you guys in the preseason. I said it while these guys were hurt when we were getting told that we were going to see it. And I've said it over the past week, and the evidence has done nothing but back up what I've been saying. If you're going to run the 2 big man lineup, start Jalen Duren with Isaiah Stewart, because then you actually are starting 2 bigs. The Pistons continually get dominated on the glass. While starting 2 bigs. That can't happen. That just can't happen. Tonight, the Pistons had how many rebounds? 49 rebounds. The New Orleans Pelicans had 60. Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas had 22 rebounds between the two. Isaiah Stewart and Marvin Bagley, 6. That's utterly unacceptable. It doesn't make any sense. You can't keep doing it. It's not going to get better. You'll have some games when Marvin Bagley gets a lot of rebounds, like he did a few games ago when he goes against smaller teams. When you go against other teams who are starting, what team was it? The Mavericks. When the Mavericks were starting Dwight Powell at 5 and then Dorian Finney-Smith at the 4, yeah, now you're going to look like, okay, we can get rebounds because you're going against a shooting guard at the power forward position. But when you're actually going against a normal lineup, you're not. They've gotten crushed on the boards every single time. It's not working. Final statement. If you're going to start 2 bigs to dominate the interior, like Dwayne Casey said, if you're going to start 2 bigs to dominate the glass, to be physically dominating, all those kind of things, you start Jalen Duren with Isaiah Stewart. And so it's so clear at this point. I don't want to hear the excuse that he's 19. I don't want to hear the excuse that he's a rookie. He's already the best rebounder on the team. He's one of the best finishers on the team inside the paint. He's the most athletic player on the team, at least. Let me not say not the most athletic, but definitely the most athletic big man they got on the team. And one of the most athletic guys on the team, him and Jaden Ivey. You got to start Jalen Duren. You just have to. You just got to. The dude had 13 rebounds. 13 rebounds, okay? You got to start him. You just got to start him. You're closing with him anyways. Every single time you're pulling Marvin Bagley out because you realize it's not working. If it was working, how about this? I'll end it right here. This is actually what I'll end it with. if Dwayne Casey disagreed with what I'm saying, if Dwayne Casey disagreed with what I was saying right here, he wouldn't be closing games with Jalen Duren over and over and over again rather than Marvin Bagley. If he disagreed with me, Marvin Bagley would be out there. But he hasn't because of the reasons I'm bringing up right here. So there's no need to keep pushing it. There's no need to keep trying to hide it. We all see it. We all see it. Just start Jalen Duren. Just do it. Just do it already. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about that. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka When we come back, I want to talk about some of the good performances that we saw in this game from the likes of, again, Jalen Duren or Killian Hayes or Saddiq Bey, who seems that hopefully this game wakes him up from outside. We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to tell you guys about some of our sponsors. First up, I got to tell you guys about LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's so simple and easy. You simply add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. You want to finish out the year strong? What a better way than to hire the right candidate for your small business. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1, delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and easier. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast you are listening, podcast platform, I should say, you are listening to this on. So, like I said, there was a few good performances in this game. And the Pistons were playing on a second end of a back-to-back. They only lost by 6 points to the New Orleans Pelicans. They were fighting all game. And the Pelicans are a really good team. They're on a 5-game winning streak now. They're a really good team. And Zion's a freak of nature, dude. He's crazy. My friends, where a lot of you guys first heard me when you guys were recommending me to become the host of Locked On Pistons. When I was doing a podcast with my friend Joe Truck, he tweeted out earlier before I started recording, and it was so true. He's one of the most, Zion that is, he's one of the most scary guys, like physically scary guys to play against. He's in like that LeBron category when he's going to the rim. He's too strong, dude. He was knocking players off of him like pinballs. There was one play he drove to the rim, and after the play he finished, and Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart were both on the ground. Like he's just what he's able to do, how he's able to move, and it's alien-like. It's crazy. So that dude's special. But anyways, the point is that they went against that, and they fought really hard without Bojan Bogdanovic for the entire second half because he got ejected. So they should be happy about their performance. They played well. And one guy, or a few guys we'll talk about, but the first guy I want to talk about is obviously Killian Hayes, who had another fantastic game for the Detroit Pistons. He shot 8 of 17 from the field, 1 of 5 from deep. A few of those threes he probably would like back. 2 of them were really open. Sure to hit them. But had 17 points, 12 assists, and 6 rebounds, go along with 2 steals, a 12-2 or a 6-1 assist to turnover ratio. He had 12 turnovers, or 12 turnovers. He had 12 assists and 2 turnovers. So tremendous assist to turnover ratio right there. He was fantastic for the Detroit Pistons tonight. And I'm not going to spend too much time on him because we talked about Killian a lot, and he's just continuing to show that he has turned the corner and he's going to become a damn good player. But I'm going to have a breakdown tomorrow on Twitter. Make sure you guys check it out. Follow me on Twitter at Kuka if you want to see it. But I'm going to be breaking down. There was a stretch. It was like at the back end of the third quarter on 4 back-to-back plays. Now, he was doing it all night. Like, I wanted to do a breakdown of the entire game, but that's just not realistic. It's not going to be able to happen. But there was a stretch at the end of the third quarter on 4 back-to-back possessions when Killian Hayes just completely dissected the New Orleans Pelicans defense to an absolute T. And it's one of those things that you record and you show point guards. It's like, this is how you read a defense. This is how you play point guard. It was a masterclass. It was beautiful what you were watching. It all was starting from running a high pick and roll with Jalen Duren. And on the first play with Jalen Duren, he scored. Killian Hayes came off the pick and roll, and he scored. The second one, he comes off the pick and roll with Jalen Duren. He gets the big man. First of all, he locks Jose Alvarado in jail, keeps him on his back. He takes a hard dribble in, makes the big guy defender think he's coming up or coming in for a layup. So the big guy comes up, and as soon as he does that, he lobs a pass over to Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren gets a dunk. Very next play, they run the exact same thing again. Killian Hayes comes around it, gets Jose Alvarado in jail, does the same thing, but this time the guy in the opposite corner, the defender in the opposite corner, tags down on the roller. Killian sees it immediately and throws a one-hand just rocket of a skip pass to Saddiq Bey in the corner. Saddiq Bey scores a three. And then the very next possession down, they do the exact same action. He does the exact same thing, gets the big man to come up. They take the guy tags down, and then the wing defender takes away the skip corner pass. And instead of freaking out, instead of just doing the same play over and over or turning the ball over by just, making the same pass over and over, Killian then makes the swing pass to the top of the key to Jaden Ivey, who's wide open for three, and he hits that three. 4 back-to-back possessions of just dissection of the opposing team's defense. Just perfection. I'm going to be breaking it down tomorrow, but I'm telling you, it was some of the most, it was by far probably his best of this, not scoring-wise, just overall play, but playmaking and dissection of a defense. It was beautiful. It was just, it was on point. He was dominating the Pelicans in the half court. They couldn't, their defense couldn't do nothing. He was just dissecting them over and over and over and over again. It was beautiful to watch. So I'm going to be breaking that down tomorrow. Make sure you guys check that out. But man, fantastic game from Killian. And he had a clutch step back three again tonight. He's playing really well, man. I'm never going to stop being happy. My one complaint is there's no way he only has 31 minutes in the game he's playing this well. I don't get why Dwayne Casey, it won't ride him when he's playing this well. He easily should have had 20 plus points, maybe even 15 assists. And he could have got triple-double if he would have just played 35-plus minutes. He was the best player for the Detroit Pistons tonight. And I don't get why Dwayne Casey doesn't play him longer. He went out 1 minute left in the third quarter and didn't come back in until the 4-minute mark in the fourth quarter. And by then, it was too late. I don't get it. That's just something I don't get, but whatever. Moving on. Saddiq Bey, he had 25 points tonight off the bench. Another great game for Saddiq Bey coming off the bench. He had 9 of 17 from the field, 5 of 10 from deep. I'm going to say it again, 5 of 10 from deep. He had 4 rebounds. Now, the big thing here is the fact he hit 5 threes tonight. Obviously, he did some other things good as well. But the fact he hit 5 threes tonight is really good to see because he's been terrible from outside this year. And he's been struggling really bad with his outside shot. Really bad. And tonight, he was really good from beyond the arc. So hopefully, this snaps him out of that rhythm or that slump and gets him into rhythm, I should say. And he's able to keep that part of his game. If he's able to get back to just last year he shot 34%. Heck, even that would be slightly good enough to really help him out because right now he was shooting 27% from deep. That's horrific. That's Stanley Johnson type numbers. So if he can just get back to 34%, I believe is slightly below average 3-point shooting. If he can get back to that, he should be able to be okay. He should be able to get away with it because of his inside scoring and his ability to draw free throws. So, yeah, seeing him being able to hit 5 threes was fantastic for Saddiq. He had 25 points in 24 minutes. He scored more than a point per minute. He probably sure even got more minutes than he did. This is one of those things, man. It's something that we got to start watching. The rotation, the way Dwayne Casey's working the rotation. I know Saddiq came off the bench, but when Saddiq was starting, he was playing 30-plus minutes. And the whole point of bringing him off the bench is, he's still a starter. He's going to get starter minutes. But he played 24 minutes. That's not starting minutes. And in a game when he has 25, and again, just like I said with Killian, in a game when Killian has playing a tremendous game, there's no reason why Saddiq probably should have been closer to 30 minutes and Killian Hayes should have been closer to 35-plus minutes. There's no reason why. You need to ride your guys when they're playing well and reward them with extra minutes, especially when you're in a game this close and you can win this one. You need to have your guys out there that are playing well. And Killian and Saddiq Bey 100% should have been out on the floor a lot longer than they actually were. So that's my one complaint. But those two guys absolutely showed up and showed out. And Saddiq Bey, and look, Zion went crazy this game. He dominated this game. But there were a few possessions where Saddiq bodied him up and played hard and played good defense. And that's Zion's 220,000 pounds coming at you at 900 miles an hour. not many dudes want to even try to get physical with him, and Saddiq was doing that. So give him credit for that too. I thought this was a really nice game from Saddiq. So both those guys played really well, and wanted to give them just their own segment, talk about how well they played against the Pelicans. They really kept the Pistons in this game. Those two guys did. They were big time. So congrats to those two guys. They're continuing their good play. Back-to-back great games off the bench. Killian is now looking like a month of tremendous play. So really nice seeing that from those guys. When we come back, though, Jaden Ivey did not close this game. Was that the right decision? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, you guys got to hear from some of our lovely sponsors. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'm going to remind you guys again, I'm going to be having a breakdown coming tomorrow, which tomorrow being the 8th of December, of those plays at the end of the third quarter with Killian Hayes. It was just fantastic stuff, so stay tuned for that. I'm also planning on going live on the YouTube channel soon, so make sure you guys are subscribed and have those noties turned on over there. I'm just going to go live and talk with you guys like we've done multiple other times. You guys have showed up and showed out multiple times for those. I love hearing from you guys and talking it up with you guys. I'm probably going to do that soon here, so stay tuned for that. Turn those noties on. And yeah, now let's get into Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey only played 21 minutes in this game, 21 minutes and 49 seconds, so technically 22 minutes, close to it. And he did not close this game. Corey Joseph did. Do I agree with the decision not to close with Jaden Ivey? Yes, I do. Jaden Ivey shouldn't have closed this game. Just like Dwayne Casey has done it with Killian Hayes, just like Dwayne Casey has done it with Saddiq Bey before, just like he's been continually doing it with Marvin Bagley. If you are not playing well, there's a difference between, actually, let me take that back. There's a difference between not playing well and like really hurting your team. And Jaden Ivey was hurting the team tonight. Now, again, I know all the Jaden Ivey lovers are going to be coming at me now. Let me go ahead and just say this. That does not mean he's terrible. That does not mean he's a bust. It does not mean he was the bad pick. It does not mean that he's not going to be great in the few months, maybe great in the few years. Doesn't mean he's not doesn't mean any of those things. Okay, so let's everyone just calm down. I know you can't criticize Jaden Ivey without people freaking out, but let's just calm down. But in this game, Jaden Ivey was hurting the team, and he did not deserve to close this game. I can't get mad at Dwayne Casey for sitting him. There's no way anyone watching this game, in a game that was winnable against a really good team, could have said Jaden Ivey should be out there. He deserves to be out there. He shouldn't. He shouldn't have been out there. He really struggled this game. He was 4 of 10 from the floor, but that's not even the problem. 2 of 5 from deep, that's actually pretty good. 2 of 4 from the free throw line, that's not even the problem. The problem is that he had 3 turnovers and 0 assists. And this has been a problem for him that you didn't see it as much at the beginning of the year, and I was giving him credit for that at the beginning of the year. Remember, I told you guys I thought he was going to struggle with this a lot out the gate, and then I had to come on the podcast and be like, okay, well, maybe not, because he hasn't done it so far. Maybe he's better. Maybe he's better at this than I thought he would be coming into the year. But now you're starting to see it over the last 3 or 4 games. Jaden Ivey's been extremely sloppy with the basketball right now. Really sloppy with the basketball. A lot of turnovers of him just going too fast. A lot of turnovers from him trying to be too flashy. A lot of turnovers from him just taking or making bad passes, trying to do things that he shouldn't be trying to do. Just really, really sloppy with the ball. And that's not even taking into account the few. He had a turnover tonight that came from him just trying to do a throw-ahead dribble in the half court and just do it right into a defender. Now, usually you see people do a throw-ahead dribble in like transition so they can speed up and catch up to it. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do a throw-ahead dribble in the half court. A lot of people do it. You'll see them do it when they do a high pick and roll way beyond the three-point line so you can get yourself a running start and try to get around the big. You'll see that. But when it's kind of condensed, it's going to be hard to pull off a throw-ahead dribble. And he did it. He threw it right into a defender. That's just one of the bad turnovers he had. But you have that, the fact that he has really bad turnovers. He wasn't creating for teammates. Now he had 0 assists. That's an awful assist-to-turnover ratio. And some of his shots at the rim were just really bad shots where he could have dumped it off for a teammate, and he could have dumped or kicked it out to an open 3. And then also his defense the defense isn't an issue. I'm not even going to really bring up the defense because all rookies are bad at defense. But him being a rookie, he's bad on defense. That's not too much of a thing to really be concerned about. Most rookies are bad. But when you have all the other stuff happening and he's a rookie and he's going to be bad on defense and you're in a game that's winnable, I don't see how you could have watched this game and thought Jaden Ivey should have closed. There's no way. That doesn't mean he shouldn't close the next game. Doesn't mean you don't start him all of a sudden. Doesn't mean he's a bust. Let me just go ahead and put the little headline at the bottom. Jaden Ivey is a great person. Jaden Ivey is a great man. He's going to be a great basketball player. He was the right pick for the Pistons, yada, yada, yada. But this game, he did not play well. Let me go ahead and just, from now on, every time we talk about Jaden Ivey, I'm just going to do that right there. We're going to give all of that beforehand, and then we'll say what we think. But, yeah, man, he didn't have a good game. And he's struggling as of late. He's in a slump. He'll work his way out of it eventually. But you can't reward him with those kind of minutes late in a game that's winnable when he's doing what he was doing. So, like I said, it's different than just struggling to hit open shots and still trying hard. There's a difference between that and actively hurting your team with some of the decisions you're making and some of the turnovers you're making. And that's what he was doing tonight. So he'll be back out there next game. I'm sure of it. He'll be straight. He'll eventually work his way out of this, but tonight, not his night. Now, what I will say that I disagreed with was going with Corey Joseph to close rather than Jaden Ivey. Corey Joseph should not have been the person closing. And listen, do I like watching Corey Joseph? No, I don't like watching Corey Joseph. Do you guys like watching Corey Joseph? No, I know you guys hate watching Corey Joseph. Is Corey Joseph awful? No, he's not awful. He's shooting 40% from deep this year, 41% last year with the Pistons. So he's actually been a fine shooter. But Corey Joseph is not good. He's a nice veteran to have who can soak up minutes, but he's not like actually really good. Someone who actually is really good is Alec Burks, who was not only is he actually better than Corey Joseph, he was also having a better night than Corey Joseph. Corey Joseph was 0 of 4 from the field. Alec Burks was 4 of 10, 3 of 6 from deep, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 14 points in this game. There's no reason why. I agree with sitting Jaden Ivey, but it should have been for Alec Burks. Not only because of the offense, not only because he was having a better night scoring, not only because he's better than Corey Joseph, but also because he's bigger than Corey Joseph. And you're going against a lineup in the New Orleans Pelicans with Dyson Daniels, who's pretty big, Zion Williamson, obviously he's big, Trey Murphy, he's big, Jonas Valanciunas, that's a big. CJ McCollum was the only guy out there who was not above 6'5". So, then going out there and then purposely closing with Corey Joseph, who's what, 6'2", 6'1"? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's what I don't get. Alec Burks is not like some insane defender, but he's 6'6". So now if you're out there and you have Killian Hayes running your point, now you're matching the Pelicans' size and physicality because you have 6'5" and above, physicality, versatility across the board. The Corey Joseph decision over Alec Burks is what really actually got me mad. Not closing with Jaden Ivey, but closing with Corey Joseph over Alec Burks. That right there didn't make any sense to me at all. And I'd love to hear an explanation for why that is. Maybe because Alec Burks maybe he's not all the way there conditioning wise. I don't know. Maybe he's tired. If you want to give that pass, maybe that was it. But he ended up coming back in the game with a minute left. So is it because he was tired? I don't know. But again, the end of the podcast, should Jaden Ivey have closed? No. Should Corey Joseph have closed for him? Absolutely not. That's what you should actually be mad about. Alec Burks should have closed this game opposite Killian Hayes. And yeah, we could probably go on for another 10 minutes talking about their closing offense. That's been an issue all freaking season, how they just abandon all the offense they do and revolve into a ISO-heavy offense every time it gets the 3-minute mark. And luckily, Killian Hayes was able to hit a few shots to make up for it this game and also against Dallas. But that's not something that you should be doing when you don't have one of the best ISO players in the league in DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. But I don't want to get into that because I'll end up ranting for 10 minutes. But anyways, that's all I've got for you guys today, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. I thought it was a really fun game to watch. Hope you guys had fun with that. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Go Pistons. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.